Hey everybody, I'm Chris DeLeon, and
Baron J67 or Baron Jones, but Baron J67. My real name is Baron, guys. My real name is Baron.
it's an awesome name. But yeah, so we were just chatting about some other stuff. Y'all find out about that later. But we started talking about VR afterwards, and we're like, oh, there's a lot of thoughts we have about this because we both care a lot about VR. And we'll kind
Yes.
of recover a couple of those points we touched on. But also, first of all, like Baron, what's your interest level in VR stuff to kind of set up their audience here?
I am looking forward to a future of being able to fully live out a good portion of my life in VR. As fantasy as that is a true and honest answer. I just want to clock in and out in VR.
I like that. So in my position on, and so maybe almost as a bit of a counterpoint. So I live fully online, socialize fully online. I know basically no one physically around me. Literally, like I have chosen for more than 10 years, way before the pandemic, to fully work remotely, interact, socialize, entertain myself fully on the internet. But I play a lot of VR. Literally, I think our Steam chart last year was like half VR and PC VR. Doesn't even include my time in Quest, which out of which probably 75% of my gaming time in VR. But I have no interest whatsoever in clocking in VR. I want to work on a computer screen. I want to do Zoom calls. I don't want to look at your 3D avatar. I don't want to put on a headset with heat on my face just to do basic work things. I like my physical setup around me for my room, and then I socialize on video camera chat. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. And we actually kind of revisit our last point we started from. Baron, you were like, hey, what are your thoughts on PSVR 2? Or, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and for me, I love the idea. I think the price point is going to be out of range for a lot of folks, especially already having to buy big the $500 purchase in order to utilize it. But the idea of a secure brand that people know and associate with video games selling and being out there, it in my opinion, it's going to lead to more VR.
And
And more VR means more people feel confident. When I say people, I'm talking about rich people putting
people who can
money
afford it.
into putting
Well,
money into VR so that now VR will go further.
my first VR headset, assuming we're discarding gear, cardboard, literal kind of
Yes.
Google, that kind of stuff, was
Yeah.
PSVR for precisely that reason. It was like it had an install base, people were using it. It was actually, you had to play in a box at least for PSVR 1. That helped me. I lived in a small LA apartment. I didn't have a lot of room to move around. I didn't want to do full room scale stuff. I wanted to sit on my butt and do the thing, and that actually worked pretty good for that. And it was connected to games I do through Sony. And the other part, though, even just thinking from like the developer perspective, yes, it's a high price point, but there's a reason why when I made like early iOS games, Apple consumers paid more for games than Android users. Price differentiation. If someone can buy a $500 console while it's still new and a $500 VR headset to go on top, obviously plus or minus 50, whatever, depending where you get these things and the size and all that, they probably can also afford to buy your $30, $50, $70 VR game as opposed to, and there's all this other interesting stuff out there. It's like, I don't know, there's like a Pico and some other brands, but like I haven't heard of them. And this is where precisely that point, that trust for the general consumer, people who aren't developers, aren't in the scene of like software engineering tinkerheads, are just like, I know what a Sony is. I own a PlayStation. That seems legitimate. I'm not worried. Is it, anyway? So yeah, that's like, it feels like it makes sense. I'm glad that they're trying it beyond. We're also kind of briefly talking about Meta's view for a while. It seemed like everyone's going to have one, just like they've got cell phones in their pockets. That feels like that future. I don't see it happening. And that's where I feel like PSVR 2 at least is trying to be more at a price point of like, okay, I call it Dolby surround sound level. You know someone who's got it. Maybe you have it someday. Maybe you don't have it right now, but you've heard of it. And it's kind of priced accordingly, not expecting every single human being is going to get them at volume. It's a different kind of way to build that business.
And what I just felt like it was the perfect storm, right? People were working from home. Quest 2 was around the corner, and then it dropped, and then I want to say it had the largest app install base during the holiday season. Which usually if you were installing the Quest app on your phone, you had the Quest 2 to go with it, or Quest 1 or whatever.
Facebook made sure it was nice and trackable since that's the business that they're in.
Yes. Data, or
Yeah.
data, whatever. But but no, I just thought it was the perfect storm. And of course, we all know like most places are still utilizing paperwork. For like, I know my job is still a lot of stuff is still pen and paper, but
Yeah.
so the world that I envision may not happen. But what on a happier, more fantasy note for me, what do you think it would take for it to go there?
That's a good question. Well, yeah, and this is where I hope I not get this wrong. I think it was Katie Grossman, formerly Katie Charmonos. I think she old long time ago friend of mine from college. I think she had said like, man, if VR didn't have its moment during the pandemic, when's it supposed to happen? Like people couldn't go outside, people couldn't go to their office. If that wasn't the point, what do we think? Right now, does it make sense? Doesn't seem like it, but we've continued to be surprised every 10, 20, 30 years by what the future looks like. And
remember, getting into cars with strangers used to be a very bad thing. They used to have whole campaigns against it.
Or talking to people on the internet, let alone talking to people on the internet to get in cars with strangers. Is a whole business model now. Yeah.
So who knows? My hyper like due to anime and other cartoons future may come true.
Part of their bet was no, Facebook's future isn't strong. Like the whole generation of us are on there, and now like we're parents' age and kids don't want to use it. They knew they had to build a life raft somewhere else. So it makes sense why they're pushing hard on something else, because they know more Facebook in the answer.
Yeah. I mean, even Instagram's going back to photos. But this is just I like the idea. Honestly, the biggest thing that I've always loved, and I know this is probably never gonna happen, but the off the wall super fiction thing of time dilation. I seen it in an anime and I was like, dude, they are going into the world to study and they're getting an extra 2 hours to 1 hour real world. Could you imagine how many books, how many audiobooks, how many games? Like I'm looking at it as I would be able to do more of the things I love with a shorter amount of time in the real space. But
that speaks to me. Okay, pretty dark. There's, I think, sort of research that suggests there might be some way to simulate I feel awful even talking about this. Simulate a prison sentence by making it seem like more time is passing than it is for some, I don't know, whatever. But here's the point, right? Perhaps that's not as far off as it sounds like to like actually perceive a reality at a different time pace. I don't know. We don't, But
my future is coming.
Yeah, well, and this is though. This brings back to the problem of like learning in VR, and this is where like I teach online. I'm an educator online. But this is where Meta has these little videos about showing as if people are sitting in a classroom and there's like 300 people in an auditorium listening to one lecture on the front. That's how physical things are designed as a compromise, because we can't do better in a way that like actually leveraging the benefit of technology, like what I do, is not a 300-person classroom. That may as well be a video. And I think it defeats the purpose when we try to like overly physicalize. We basically take the downsides. This is classic skeuomorphism problem. Here's the problems of a notebook. Can we recreate that on a phone screen? Wait, why is that the direction you're going with it?
And I think of the whole classroom setting. Why not make it to where you could have the same lesson go out to more people? Like, I hate that I'm gonna be honest, as somebody who did online classes, I at my core understand why there's a limit, because the teacher can only look at so many reports of the same topic.
It's a grading bottleneck, which is where the TAs come in as opposed to the professor at a school.
So in my head, why not hire on a whole team of TAs like people do with virtual assistants?
Which, like video courses, I mean, the Game Dev TV team, like they got that kind of thing going on. They got assistants and moderators. By the way, do you got to go hard stop right now? We want to wrap it? All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We're going to have more stuff in the future. Thanks for this. Share your thoughts below about VR and the future of it. We don't know. We're rambling. We enjoy it. We hope it works out good. Thanks for chatting today, Baron.
See ya.